Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning,
Good morning, Leila. Good morning, Tundu. Yes, the report from the National Assembly. We started with the appearance of Senator Abaribe Eyinaya. Continues on the front pages of Nigerian newspaper as expected. The Guardian let's start with this day as usual. The lead story, hold executive responsible for failed constituency projects. House tells Buhari, explains 50% of funds released. Says ICPC report breaches legislative privilege. Other papers are reporting similar story. The Daily Trust, lawmakers fire back at Buhari over 1 trillion constituency project. Push blame to ministers. While The Nation, Buhari order on 1 trillion million naira project, 1 trillion naira project, judge senators, reps. Constituents demand answer. ICPC report misleading, says lawmakers, and we have some quote right there in the front page of The Nation. We are not worried because we know that it was a erroneous statement. The president said he has not seen anything. He should ask his ministers and the agencies. Now, of course, the New Telegraph reps ICPC misled Buhari on 1 trillion naira constituency projects. We expect this to follow with that allegation of no trickle-down effects of 1 trillion naira spent on constituency projects. But the senators, the lawmakers, they seem to have a different story. After all, some women are using their grinding machines. Some locals are riding the keke napep.
Some are taking water from boreholes.
Yes. So to say that there is no trace, no trickle down, what else do you call trickle down? If the locals are grinding their pepper, making money and all that.
Well, I don't know whether you listened to Senator Abaribe. We had asked him that how does this constitute a sustainable development, And then I said, okay, what is this? Is this federal presence? When there are bigger issues that affect the people's lives. And he said, no, even if you just give a grinding machine to a woman, you put her to work, other things can follow.
And he said it's better. Well, he said it's better than giving 10,000 naira cash, and I just thought touche. But also, constituency projects, it must be said. He did say that he had some with regards to educational materials and healthcare. I do know of a community that had never seen a dialysis machine until it was a member of the House of Reps, gave dialysis machines as a constituency project. Because I said yesterday, I find them valuable. I just think the mode of execution needs to be reviewed. And the point has been raised about budget implementation, which tends to be the bête noire everywhere. We see that year in, year out. What is appropriated is different from the funds that are released. There's also that problem as well.
Absolutely. Well, that's the position of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Gbajabiamila. He says that, look, when you hear the figure 1 trillion, you would think that, it was money that was disbursed, that there is gap between, the amount budgeted and what is cash back.
But maybe that's why it came from 2 trillion to 1 trillion.
Yeah,
because initially it was 2 trillion.
Yeah, but he's still insisting that even that 1 trillion, is incorrect because it's just about 50% that is cash back. But I think in the long run, what is necessary, what is probably required is to have an effective monitoring system, and an inventory of all these constituency projects and a department of government that monitors and evaluates what is done, whether it is executed by the lawmakers or by the affected ministries, departments, and agencies of government. I'm sure that, if you were to ask for the records in the last 10 years to say, which constituency project has been done where, government may not have a comprehensive record, that they can look at. that can even provide an opportunity for an independent audit of these projects. So the major issue arising from the concern expressed by the president will be to see how, the monitoring process can be better institutionalized, because the ICPC going about saying it has a tracking scheme for monitoring constituency projects, that's not a core mandate of the ICPC. And that's why the lawmakers think that this is a case of persecution. So if we're going to have constituency projects, then let us have somebody in charge of really monitoring and documenting what is done, and that may well address your concern.
Exactly. Under the executive or under the
executive?
Under the executive.
It's all well and good to buy a grinding machine, but then once that grinding machine spoils, what happens to that person's income? But if we have a monitoring system that can make sure that these projects are sustainable, then it makes sense, because no one is really against constituency projects, just against the handling of it.
Yes, while I agree with you that there should be an institutionalized mechanism to monitor these projects, but I think for the legislators, they should be able to give us a rundown, because their concern is that they want federal presence in their constituencies. Now, I want to believe that a lot of these legislators have been in the National Assembly for quite a while. They should give us a rundown of what people are benefiting. Like you mentioned, in some constituencies, you have some far-reaching projects, dialysis in the constituency, maybe a constituency without water, pipe-borne water.
One lawmaker on one occasion commissioned electricity poles.
Poles, yes. Not electricity. No. So I think for transport, they should at least give us a rundown of some of these projects so that Nigerians can have a feel of what these monies have been spent on, whether it is 2 trillion, 1 trillion, or half a trillion.
Yeah, the public demands answers.
Let's move on to politics. The Vanguard newspaper, which I think we should have at the background, burning of Kogi PDP woman leader, planned job, community. Family members in shock, fear reprisal attacks to meet weekend. But for illness, Salome might have escaped relation. PDP, APC demand justice. ABC wants to Shoni Barre. Others outraged. Our democracy in danger, says Shetima, AYCF leader. While the second lead of the Guardian newspaper simply puts it this way: PDP caucus demand justice over murder of Kogi woman leader. Let's have the Vanguard at the background again. This is a very alarming degeneration of politics in Nigeria. And what happened in Kogi before the election, during the election, and after the election.
It was on Monday she was murdered.
So much violence, and it is also distasteful that in all this we are not seeing persons in police custody already.
And why is it PDP speaking out about the murder of the PDP woman leader? Last time I checked, the PDP woman leader is still human. APC should also come out and condemn this. Yeah. The silence from that side is really quite disturbing. Must everything be reduced to partisanship? This is a woman who died a horrible death. No, everybody should condemn this.
The Guardian is reporting that the APC condemns post-election violence. So they too have spoken up.
No, it's too general. No,
that is quite general.
This is
no, where's the outrage?
There's no outrage, and that's what's a bit disturbing.
No.
And the police was saying yesterday that it's a reprisal attack.
How is it a reprisal attack?
That there was
because the woman was chased to her house, she was doused with petrol, and she was, assassinated.
Prevented from even coming out with shootings from all around the house until
I think the police again.
House was engulfed.
We've had too many cases of unresolved murders in Nigeria, and here in the case of Kogi State, we now have this particular case of a woman who has been murdered just because of her political conviction. I think the police, they have a responsibility to get to the root of the matter and ensure that justice is done. However, we've had reports, of course, of the collusion of the police with thugs in Kogi State. And the people of the police will also need to do a proper audit of the conduct of its men in Kogi State. But let us go on a short break. When we return, the review of newspapers will continue. We'll be right back. You're still watching the morning show here on the Arise News channel. And still with us in the studio, reviewing some of the headlines of newspapers from around the world, is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Emmanuel.
Yes, Ruben. I think let's just go to the Nigerian Tribune, which has a similar headline, still on the same subject of the violence in our elections. Murder of Kogi woman leader. Projecting forward, they're saying 2023 scares us. PDP senators cry out. Ask IGP to fish out killers, reject Kogi Barrister elections. APC condemns post-election violence killings in Kogi. Now, if we are saying this in a state election where it is possible to police that state or two states, what does this portend looking ahead to 2023?
It is scary. This is why
It's
I
quite
can't...
scary.
Yes, APC and their tepid press release is all very well and good, but for me, it should be like a joint press briefing, like what we have, the picture story of this day with the PDP senators looking sober. They should have APC senators there as well. At this point, it affects everybody. Sort of insipid condemnation doesn't cut it at this point.
Well, I don't want to just single out APC until persons are apprehended and actually brought to book, and that's the function of the security agencies, the police in this case, to fish out these killers and identify which political party they belong. Yes, you want to assume that because the
No,
PDP...
they're the two major parties. I didn't suggest that they're the killers.
Now, perhaps most of our politicians don't seem to share the Jonathan philosophy. No, my ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian. Most Nigerian politicians don't seem to share that.
No.
They go all out in the quest for power.
Oh, I read this definition, no offense to the present company. A politician is a person who will ask you to lay down, who will ask you to sacrifice your life for the country. Is it not his? No,
I wish it was even for the country. But this one is for the ambition.
Well, in any case, when we push the matter back to the police, I hope the police, understand the gravity of, what happened in Kogi State and also in Bayelsa State. Yeah. Was it not yesterday, Efeni, that you brought a story quoting the Inspector General of Police saying that it was, the election in Kogi State was,
the policemen
was presided over by fake policemen, fake helicopter, fake guns, fake uniforms.
The helicopter was genuine, but they were just dispersing troublemakers.
Well, I hope that the authentic policemen, would take special notice of this and do what they must do.
Okay, if we move on, Daily Sun, still on our elections, looking forward again. Results transmission tops new electoral bill. Also e-voting as lawmakers move to pass bill next month. This is what we expect, that every amendment that will enhance the electoral process should be done in the Electoral Act as 2010 as amended. And a lot of amendment done before the last general election, just that the president did not sign at the last minute. The reason, that is the last reason, was that the timing, not with the content. But now there's additional amendments to include e-voting, electronic transmission of results. Then also that amendment, the amendment bill has the provision that INEC must have a database, whether you call it server, at its headquarters, where all the total number of voters accredited must be transmitted into immediately accreditation is complete. And any electoral officer who failed to do that will be liable upon conviction to 5 years imprisonment. And that server will remain open after the election until all election petitions are concluded?
You are referring to Section 52, subsection 2 of the Electoral Amendment Bill 2019 as proposed by your senator.
Yes.
Senator
Senator.
Omo Agege,
Yes.
and Senator Abdullahi Kyari, who is the co-sponsor. And you've given the details. So they're placing emphasis on electronic voting, electronic transmission, the maintenance of the database. And of course, that's understandable. This is a fallout of what happened in the Atiku case and the PDP case against the APC and President Muhammadu Buhari, when there was this controversy about whether, INEC has a database or does not have a database.
Facts don't lie.
Yes.
Website.
And then, of course, they've introduced a section 87 to that bill, which is about the nomination of candidates by parties. And then they are also proposing an amendment of section 37 of the electoral bill on disqualification of candidates. And they're saying that once you have qualification that is in line with section 67, 107, and section 182 of the 1999 Constitution, then you cannot be disqualified, on the basis of a qualification. But of course, it's gone for a second reading and it's been referred, to the committee stage for it to be further considered. Definitely, there is a meeting of minds among the senators that reforming our electoral system and processes is a necessity. And I think that is also the consensus, among Nigerians on the basis of lessons that we have learned from 2015 to 2019, all these elections that appear to be flawed. But then, while the Electoral Act needs clearly to be amended, there are also other things that will need to be done subsequently. In our discussion of Bayelsa and Kogi State elections, we've seen a lot of issues with the police. We've seen a lot of issues with the Electoral Commission itself. And the bigger issue about the conduct of the political parties, and the desperation, the greed, the lack of good faith on the part of politicians, either as individuals or as a collective. So it's one thing to get the law through, and we hope that this time around, when that bill is fully amended, President Buhari will not have any reason to object to it, because the excuse he gave at the other time was that if we came up with a new law, it could create confusion. It was too close to the election, and the electoral process could be disrupted. Now we don't have that challenge. The next major general election is 2023. And if President Buhari assents, to this new bill, when it passes, it could be remembered as part of his legacy, in the same manner in which, the amendment of the Production Sharing, Act will also be remembered as part of the legacy that he leaves behind. And as we, on this side, continue to tick and document, what he has been able to do.
Okay. Perhaps what we cannot legislate on is the conduct of
politicians
and security agencies, because it's becoming worrisome. Fake army in Port Harcourt during the general election, Rivers Post. We've now heard of fake police. Can we legislate against fake police and fake soldiers, or genuine soldiers that turn to fake soldiers on election day?
We'll hold the Chief of Army Staff and the Inspector General of Police to account. He should not, preside over an institution that can mutate and become, loaded with fake persons, with fake agents. I mean, what is the job of... He said he deployed over 60,000 policemen. Now,
34,
the authentic,
31.
the original policemen, they just stood aside and allowed fake policemen to take over the stage. The excuse is ridiculous.
It is.
And don't forget that there was an investigative panel to look at the soldiers' action in the Rivers election. Till now,
no outcome, no report.
There's no outcome, no report, whether they're actually fake or not.
Even the conduct of the soldiers in, what state was that? Taraba.
Yes.
Where,
who killed,
policemen were killed. What happened to the report?
We're still waiting for that report.
Yeah, they said it would take 2 weeks. They said it would take 2 weeks. All of a sudden, everybody has forgotten that, and Nigerians have moved on.
Incident.
Yeah.
So we should worry about the conduct of members of these security agents on election day. We cannot legislate against that, but these institutions need to do proper introspection.
The Police Act does not provide for fake policemen or, policemen who act as thugs. There's no such provision in the Police Act. And it's the responsibility of the head of the institution himself and his men, the AIGs in the various zones, to make sure that on election day or any other day, we do not have fake people on the streets.
We move on to other subjects. The Punch newspaper, no IPPIS, no pay order. Federal government ASU clash again. Enrollment in varsities begins Monday. We will shun it. UI, UNN, ABU lecturers vow. It's preemptive to say union won't comply, federal government. I thought we've gotten over this with the goodwill demonstrated by the federal government by extending the period for enrollment into the system, or you will not receive your pay. But the academic staff union of universities seem to be adamant and stuck in their ways that they are not going to be part of this. And we have said over and over again on this program that there is no reason, justifiable reason, why ASU should not enroll. Whatever is the peculiarities of their pecs and salaries can be accommodated in the software. And I think that assurance has been given before. But here we are again, that this potential clash between the federal government and ASU is still very much in the air.
Efeni, my only response is that you cannot be more correct.
It's not like prayer.
And well, if we just move over to the foreign newspapers, the UK, The Guardian, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. Yes, the electioneering campaign on Labour in £75 billion pledge to tackle UK housing crisis. Council house building program for the many will be the biggest since the post-war boom. And with that amount, Labour intend to be doing 100,000 housing, council house every year, and another 50,000 social homes through housing associations.
Yes, Jeremy Corbyn has been making a lot of pro-people promises, either about reducing the work day
yes.
to 4 days per week, or doing some revolution with the NHS, and now he's talking about housing. But what we know is that very comfortably, the Conservatives are ahead in the polls, and even the first debate that, the televised
yes.
debate between Corbyn and Boris Johnson, at the end of the day, yes, Boris Johnson is still ahead.
No, but
it may not have been.
Was closed.
It may not have been very impressive.
From about 14% gap, it was close from 59% for the
debate on the polls.
No, the polls after the debate.
Yeah, but then Jeremy Corbyn did not gain any special advantage in that debate, and most of the time people were just laughing at the two of them. But we'll see how it goes. However, it's interesting that you've singled out Labour's plan. But if you look at the other papers in the UK today, the big story is about the Duke of York,
yes,
Prince Andrew, who is in the background.
We'll get to that.
If you look at the Telegraph newspaper, Duke departs from public life. Yes, and of course, if you look at the Daily Mail, outcasts, royal crisis.
Crisis in the palace.
Yes, in the palace. That's what the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Mail. Of course, after that...
I'm sorry, Mommy, says the Daily Mail.
That was so rude. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thanks,
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Efeni. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.